The Texans make a trade, and the Astros make yet another regime change. I would mess that up. The Texans made a trade. The Astros made yet another regime change, is what I'm trying to say. If I can speak English today, it's a regime change with the Astros. Of course, y'all know by now that they have let go of their general manager, Dana Brown. What does it all mean? What is the impact, these moves, both the Texans trade for Kayshon Boutte and the Astros letting go of their general manager, Dana Brown? We're going to talk about all of that right here on the B Block with B Scott.
Going down, H-Town, Power Club, B Scott.
B Scott from Hiram Club, 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 B Scott from Hiram Club.
Welcome into the B Block with B Scott. I am your host, Brandon Scott. I appreciate you for being here. Make sure if you are not already that you subscribe to the B Block with B Scott right here on YouTube. You can also find us wherever it is that you get your podcast. And y'all got to excuse me for that intro, man. I got tongue twisted. Was trying to say a regime change. I don't think it came out correctly. But that's how it goes when you're doing live programming, live broadcasting. Y'all just going to have to rock with me and make it work. Anybody that's listening to the playback, I apologize for the sloppiness. But we do have some interesting stuff to talk about. Some interesting things have happened in the world of Houston sports since the last time that we talked, and I want to get into all of it. Of course, as we know, the Astros have let go of their general manager. I want to get into that. Dana Brown, no longer your Astros general manager. We got to talk about the timing. We got to talk about the implications. We got to talk about what I think has been fairly characterized in multiple places as a crossroads in Astros history right now, just in terms of their timeline, who they are, and what they want to be. So we're going to get into all of that. Make sure that y'all go ahead and leave your comments in the chat and in the comment section. Whatever questions or thoughts that you might have about what's going on right now, would love to hear them. But we are going to start off with this Kayshon Boutte trade, which was news on Monday. And I wish I'd had an opportunity, or had taken the opportunity, I should say more fairly, to have addressed this with y'all yesterday, but it was a busy day. And by the time I got to the end of it, I just did not feel like it. I'm just going to be real with y'all. But I feel like it now. I'm ready to do this. I was on with Kim Davis. Want to shout out Kim Davis at Chalk Talk. Got to do that earlier in the day and talk about this very subject. Kayshon Boutte being brought over from the New England Patriots, what this means, and just where the Texans are right now, where they sit right now with this wide receiver group. We'll get into the 53-man roster, but the wide receiver room and the depth chart there, and Kayshon Boutte and his particular impact is what I want to get into to start the show. First off, again, let me know what y'all think. What was y'all's reaction when y'all saw this news? Of course, this was one of the names that was out there once the Jaden Higgins injury happened last week, and we're rolling up on about a week ago now when that happened. I think, well, today's Tuesday, so it should be exactly a week ago. I believe is when they had that last practice. And so this has been a point of conversation is, what do the Texans do? Do they go out there and get somebody on the street, one of these older guys that's available, a DeAndre Hopkins, a Sterling Shepard type, which is somebody that they ended up bringing in, Sterling Shepard, Zay Jones as well. Later on in the week, they brought in both of those guys. And would it perhaps just thrust somebody else that's already in the room, somebody that's already in that wide receiver room, would it put them in a more prominent position, right? Would that be the next man up mentality of like Xavier Hutchinson, or the way I characterize it over the weekend with the Tank Dell thing is like, this question of what is Tank Dell and how ready is he and when is he going to be ready is a little bit more urgent than just put the guy to the side that you really, really like and that you're rooting for and that you don't want to expect too much from. They kind of need him. So now they need him less. Just want to point that out. Now that question about Tank Dell is a little less urgent than it was when I was putting it out there over the weekend when I was doing shows on 95.7 The Fan. And this is, I don't know any other way to put it, but a win for the Texans in terms of being able to get this quality of a player this late in the game that a team like New England would have at least what they consider to be a surplus, enough of a surplus at the receiver position, having brought in Romeo Dobbs and AJ Brown to where it's pushed Kayshon Boutte down on the depth chart enough, and him being in the last year of his contract, to where they could afford to deal him and get a more useful, perhaps more useful player in return. Now, I don't know if Jalen Reed, the safety that they got back from the Texans, is going to be a more useful player to them than Kayshon Boutte potentially could have been. But they did have a surplus of talent, or a surplus of guys, you should say, at the receiver position. And the Texans could argue that they had a surplus once they brought in Reed Blankenship and the emergence of Kamari Ramsey in camp, that Jalen Reed was not quite as essential to their operation as he may have been last year, or would have been had they not brought in these other guys. So it has the potential, just from a transactional standpoint, has the potential to be a win-win for both organizations. The Patriots get a depth piece at safety, somebody who could actually go out there and play for them, and Jalen Reed, second-year guy out of Penn State, later round pick. And the Texans get to answer this question of who is going to play receiver opposite of Nico Collins. So, and that's going to be Kayshon Boutte. A couple of notes on Kayshon Boutte. We'll just get the numbers out the way real quick. 2025 with the Patriots, the guy had 33 catches for 551 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. The 6 touchdowns is notable because it is the exact number that Jaden Higgins had last year as a rookie for the Texans. And so, just like in a vacuum, you're thinking about the production, you're trading a similar amount of production in terms of touchdowns. Now, they're different types of players. You know, Jaden Higgins is more of a like body type. He's more of a Nico Collins kind of clone with the size and everything like that. Kayshon Boutte does not necessarily have that. He's a 5'11, 500 and, or I'm sorry, 500, 5'11, 200-pound receiver. So doesn't necessarily have the size, but has great play strength, great hands, and can make contested and acrobatic catches. So you've got the production here that would be in line with at least what you were getting from Jaden Higgins. And then more specifically for Texans fans as it relates to Kayshon Boutte and the scouting report, nobody should know what he's capable of other than obviously Patriots fans, where he's been the last few years. Nobody should know what he's capable of more than Texans fans. Because if you watched him in that divisional game, and if you watched him over the last couple of years against the Texans, he's made plays against one of the better, if not the best secondary in football, and against one of the better, if not the best cornerback in football. Made some acrobatic catches against Derek Stingley in the divisional round. A big reason why the Patriots, everybody talks about how poorly CJ Stroud played, and the Woody Marks fumble and all of the turnovers, and not having the right guys out there because they were injured, and the offensive line, the inability to run the ball, and all of these things that were true, very true. All of these things were true. But what doesn't get talked about as much from a Texans perspective is the fact that the Patriots came out ready to play that day. They came out ready to play. And one of those guys that came out ready to play was definitely Kayshon Boutte. And he went out there and did his thing. And I think that Texans fans probably are going to remember, they're going to remember the performance that he had. 3 catches for 75 yards and the touchdown that we all remember. So that's what you're getting. That's what you're getting in Kayshon Boutte. I think this is going to be real interesting to see like how the rest of the room shakes out. What do the moves of the last several days, including this trade, including bringing in those older guys that were on the street, how does that push the competition and the hierarchy in that wide receiver room? Is something that I don't have a great answer for you right now as I sit, but like you, I will be interested to observe how it all works out, right? Like, I think we assumed before they made all these moves that Xavier Hutchinson was going to go into that role. Jalen Noel would come back eventually from his nagging injuries, and he did do that over the weekend. Was practicing, um, and or that could have been yesterday's practice. He's been practicing since last week, or at least has been dressed since that joint practice last week, but was fully integrated into the mix. And so now I think you can comfortably envision, if you're a Texans fan, you can comfortably envision a wide receiver group that includes Nico Collins and Kayshon Boutte on the outside, and whoever's healthiest and most trustworthy between Jalen Noel and Xavier Hutchinson, either of which I would be comfortable with in the slot. Probably would prefer Jalen Noel at this point, but I would be comfortable with either one of those guys at this position or at this point in that position in the slot. And I think you can kind of just roll with that. So, in my view, those are your top four guys. And notice how I hadn't even gotten to Lewis Bond yet. Hadn't even gotten to Lewis Bond yet. Somebody who has been impressive in camp, somebody who we've talked about quite a bit here on this show, and somebody who I know Texans fans have been excited about since the moment that they drafted him out of Boston College and got a chance to really watch some of his tape, some of his highlights, watch some of his route running. And again, all of that has rang true since he's been at training camp and in the preseason. He's made plays. D'Amico Ryans and the teammates, coaches and teammates have spoken highly of him. That's somebody that's going to make the team. And I'm not talking about no practice squad type of thing. I'm talking about make the 53-man roster. I think you're looking at Lewis Bond in that mix, along with the guys that we already know: Nico Collins, Kayshon Boutte, Jalen Noel, Xavier Hutchinson, Lewis Bond, and you got a crew of guys that are now fighting for that last spot. What I think is that last spot. Of course, they could keep more guys or carry more guys, but I'm not expecting them to carry more than 6 wide receivers on the active roster. And if that be the case, you got a handful of guys that are competing for that 6th spot. We're talking about Jared Wayne, who Noah right here in the chat mentions Wayne and Bond are sleepers. I couldn't agree more, even though I don't think Bond is a sleeper as much because he's a rookie. And I think they're all high on him. And if you're reading the tea leaves, you can probably tell that and see that. But we're talking about Jared Wayne, these older guys that they brought in, and Sterling Shepard and Zay Jones and Justin Watson, who Noah just mentions here. Somebody that they really like for his intangibles, his special teams acumen, and just his reliability as a veteran. That's somebody that is in contention for this spot. What they do on the back end of that position group is going to be really interesting, knowing that Jaden Higgins is lost for the season. You put him off to the side. And then what do they do with Tank? Talking with Kim Davis earlier in the day, and I trust her opinion on this sort of thing because she's been around the team for a really long time, and even to this day, she's there pretty much on the daily. Her sense is that based off of what we've seen or haven't seen from Tank, hasn't really been active in a lot of the practices, been off to the side, sort of on his own ramp-up period, doing his own thing, but most importantly, has not been involved in a lot of contact, wasn't involved in the joint practice, hasn't played in any preseason games. Doesn't seem to be any motivation or really any logic in playing him in this upcoming preseason game on Friday at Carolina. So there's no expectation of even seeing him in real live game action before the season starts. So might that be somebody that starts the season on some kind of list? Probably. Whether it's IR or PUP or whatever it is, he noticeably was not on the PUP list to start training camp, but that was just probably so they could get him to do as much as they possibly can. But does not look like they're gonna throw him out there. It doesn't probably make a lot of sense to throw him out there. And so it leaves you with that spot, right? Because if he was gonna be out there, then that wide receiver room looks like it's pretty set, right? If Tank is in the mix, and I don't think he is. I think he's gonna end up on one of these lists like we're talking about. But if he was in the mix, that would just leave you with Nico Collins, Kayshon Boutte, Tank Dell, Xavier Hutchinson, Jalen Noel, and Lewis Bond likely making the team. without Tank, and of course, obviously without Jaden Higgins in the mix, and you probably don't make this trade if Jaden Higgins is healthy, then there's a spot open. Looks like there's a spot open. So I'm interested to see what that looks like. But again, I think week one, as presently presented, you don't have to really worry about, or I at least would not be worried about or super concerned about what the weapons look like. I am comfortable going out there with, again, Nico Collins on one side, Kayshon Boutte on the other, and either Higgins or Noel in the slot, and then going from there. If it's Higgins, I should say Hutchinson or Noel in the slot. If it's Hutchinson that's the backup, then he can be the backup to any guy, right? Lewis Bond as a backup makes more sense as a backup in the slot. So this wide receiver room looks like it's pretty close to set. And so I'm very curious to see how everything works out. It's going to come down to, and this is something that I brought up on Sunday when I was on with Patrick Creighton. It is as devastating in the moment of an injury as it was for Jaden Higgins, and as important as it is that they made this move to go out and get Kayshon Boutte. So much of everything when we talk about this offense is going to come down to whether they get it right on the offensive line. First, did they scout it properly, and did they bring the right guys in or bring the right guys back is the number one question. And then from there, did they find the right collection of guys among those, the right combination, I should say, of 5 guys among those to go out there and ball? And so that is going to be a much bigger and much more important piece of this than whether it's Jaden Higgins out there or Kayshon Boutte out there, or if Tank Dell is healthy, and all of that is important. All of it is important. But what are you getting from that offensive line, both in pass protection and in running the football? Can you do any of it? Can you do any of it is the main sticking point and the main question. What is Nick Caley talking about? What is Nick Caley as a play caller in his second season? What is that hitting for? And there are positive signs. There are things to feel good about or optimistic about when it comes to Nick Caley. I thought he had gotten better toward the end of the season. I don't think that last game is, the game against the Patriots in the divisional round. I don't think that's a game that anybody per se is putting on their resume. I think that's one that they're probably trying to flush in general. But before that, I thought that Nick Caley had started to at least improve some, even if the early signs left a lot to be desired. And the early signs of this season, preseason so far, observing them in the training camp practices, it has been positive signs with Nick Caley. But all of that is going to be just as important, if not more, and I think more important than the Boutte trade or the Higgins injury, with all due respect to both instances. What the offensive line is hitting for, what Nick Caley is talking about, that's going to be the telltale. So I'm super curious about that. But I like the move. I don't know if I spent 20 minutes talking about it without saying that I like the move, that feeling positive about it. But I am feeling good about it. Shout out to everybody that's getting involved in the chat. Front Runner says that Hutchinson is better than that guy. I'm assuming that you're talking about better than Kayshon Boutte. And I don't know. Like, I like Hutch. Don't get me wrong. I like Hutch, and there's going to be a role for Hutchinson, right? I think this is what's going to be interesting, is watching and see what Hutchinson's role is going to be exactly. But I don't know if I agree that Hutchinson is better. I think he's going to have an opportunity, have several opportunities to make some plays for them. But I mean, just what you saw in that playoff game alone, what you've seen from Boutte against the Texans alone, makes you feel like, hey, this is somebody that can go out there and make plays for you. Now, I should have made this point, that what Boutte did against the Texans is not necessarily consistent with what he has done overall, right? Like the Texans, And it sounds like I'm taking a shot at the secondary or I'm taking a shot at the defense, but this was not the defense's best day either, if we're being real about it. The Texans made Kayshon Boutte look closer to a Pro Bowler or All Pro than what he actually is. So, on the one hand, like I said earlier, if there's anybody that should know what Kayshon Boutte is capable of, it should be Texans fans. But at the same time, I don't want us to overplay, kind of to the point that front runner was making. I don't want to overplay what this guy is and what his contribution is going to be. Now, as Noah mentions, he's got legitimate wide receiver potential. Talking about Booty, says he's got legitimate wide receiver two potential and great ball snagging and deep ball abilities. That's what it comes down to. When we ask this question, when it comes to the Texans, like where are the explosive plays supposed to come from? Where are they going to come from? Well, that is in part a Nick Caley question in terms of how is he going to scheme up explosives, but it is also a personnel question in terms of who outside of Nico Collins is capable of being that guy. We talked on the show previously about Marlon Klein having that kind of potential. I think that even though Lewis Bond is not necessarily considered to be an explosive player, I think the precision in his route running and his dependability out there will create some opportunities for him to be explosive. But specific players, I look at Marlon Klein and I really look at Woody Marks as guys who could fill that explosive void, right? If you're assuming you're going to throw to the running backs a little bit more than you did last year, there's a role for Woody Marks. And then Marlon Klein just provides a dynamic at the tight end position that I'm not sure existed for you if you're the Texans. I don't think that existed for you before. So this will be really interesting. 53-man roster, because I have this here just to mention and just to say, and we can talk about it more as the week goes on. But this is coming up on Sunday. This is coming up on Sunday, and I'm curious from y'all who are some of the bubble guys. I talked about this on the show on Sunday as well with Patrick Creighton. Some of the bubble guys that you are wanting to see get a shot. Bubble guys that you want to see make it that again are just on the fringes of the roster. I think one of the guys for sure does have to be Jared Wayne. I was trying to think because I saw his name mentioned here in the comments a minute ago. Jared Wayne is somebody who is probably just habitually on the fringes of the roster, but has done some good things in camping in the preseason and has, I think, earned a spot on the team. Now, earning a spot on the team and actually getting a spot on the team are two separate matters. So I'm not saying that he's going to get a spot on the team, but that's definitely somebody that I think deserves an extra look. And I think Friday is going to be valuable for him, whether that's being on this team or potentially auditioning for the next team. Another guy I look at is a Naquan Jones, right? I feel like that is a crowded defensive line room, the interior especially. Of course, Dylan Horton went down with that injury, and it's real unfortunate for him because he looked like somebody that was going to make the team. But a point I was making on Chalk Talk earlier today was it'll be interesting to see how they divide up their defensive line makeup, if you will. If losing an edge rusher means that they lean into the flexibility of, say, a Logan Hall and they carry an extra interior guy, or does this open up a spot for a guy like Solomon Byrd, who Brandon Hallam 51. My bad, Brandon. I know you a loyal day one, so forgive me for that. But Brandon just mentioned in here Solomon Byrd is somebody. Does Dylan Horton's injury open up an opportunity for him, or does it ensure a spot for a guy like Naquan Jones, who is in a crowded position group, but has shown himself worthy of a spot? Brandon, right on time, asked, will we prefer Mario Edwards or Naquan Jones? That, to me, was a more relevant question before the injury to Dylan Horton. So I mean, I would say that based off of track record, I would prefer Mario Edwards. Based off of what I've watched in camp, I would really love to see Naquan Jones get a spot. So 53-man roster cuts is something to watch. Senior Buble, shout out to you, mentions Bond and Whittington. I think you're saying that as far as bubble guys. I don't think Bond is a bubble guy. If you want to classify him as one, then he can be included in this. And maybe he is a bubble guy in the sense of him being somebody that they can just stash on the practice squad if they see fit. But I think he's making the team. Now, Noah Whittington, and if you listen to or caught the weekend show, you know I was singing the praises of Whittington. But then he got hurt, as Rodney is saying. Rodney Bryce, 764, says he thought Whittington was in the hunt till he got hurt. So who's running back number 3? Well, there's the issue. Both of the guys that look like they are worthy of running back number 3 honors have been hurt throughout camp or at some point are either hurt now or have been hurt throughout camp. In the case of Jawar Jordan, he's missed quite a bit of time. I think he had the early inside track on RB3. And then Noah Whittington went out there and I think did himself some favors and was contending for that spot. And I was making the point, I don't think that Jawar Jordan has done so much that injury can't get him got, unfortunately. You know, he is not, unfortunately for him, he is not David Montgomery or Woody Marks in this hierarchy. You miss some time, somebody else shows they can do your job, that might just be it for you. Or you could find yourself on the practice squad. But it is I think it's an interesting question when you come at it from, hey, you got 2 guys for one spot, or do you carry more than 4 running backs? Because British Brooks is going to be on the team. Noah's asking, is British Brooks back? That's a tongue twister for alliteration for you. Is British Brooks back? He is back. He is back. Now, his role, as y'all can see, clearly is not to play running back and to run the ball. For whatever reason, that's just not what it seems like they've envisioned for him. But, I mean, I've said this, he's just as much likely to make a tackle for you on special teams as he is, and probably more likely to make a tackle for you on special teams as he is to carry the ball for you. All that to say, he's back, and I think they want him on the team for those purposes. And because he can go out there and play a little fullback for you, I think in a pinch if they really want him to. So Texas Smoke is out of here. Shout out to you for hopping in while you could. Make sure you check us out on the playback. But yeah, those are some of the interesting names on roster cuts. Noah is asking about Cade Stover. Is Cade Stover on the chopping block? I got a tough time seeing where Cade Stover fits into the mix. Like, obviously, he could be a depth piece at that position, but what is that really giving you versus what it's costing you in terms of a roster spot if you were to carry him on the roster? Is Cade Stover giving you anything that Marlon Klein at this point is not, or that Foster Moreau is not? Because those guys are making it. Marlon Klein's on the roster. Foster Moreau is going to be on the roster. We know Dalton Schultz is going to be on the roster. If they're keeping a 4th tight end, you got to figure that Cade Stover, just by way of being healthy and available, has a better chance than, say, a Brevin Jordan, who I think people are much more excited about and would much more rather see or prefer to see. But yeah, you got to figure that he's on the chopping block, because I'm not really sure what the role is for him, other than, as Brandon is saying, tight end 4 and keeping the other tight ends fresher. But I don't know. That is somebody who, if you look up and he gets cut, he's not on the team, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Would not be surprised, not one bit. What did y'all think of these What did y'all think of these rivalries uniforms that they put out today? And if I had been thinking, I would have had something up with the pictures. See if I can find something for y'all. If y'all haven't, I'm pretty sure y'all seen it. Y'all can go find them on social media. They're all over the place. But the rivalries uniforms came out, and I thought that they were clean. I thought they were slick. Let's see. Maybe we could actually do this. Let's do this real quick. Noah says that they're fire. I agree. I think that they're fire. I don't. I mean, I don't have really much criticism. I'm curious from any of y'all who are like, man, I don't like those uniforms. What don't you like about them? If you wanna zig when everybody else is zagging, I'm curious. Let's see. See if I can get this up here. Y'all bear with me. This is what we trying to do. All right, so this is a little bit of a snippet from uniforms. There's CJ Stroud rocking it. You're gonna see Nico and Stingley and Will Anderson Jr. How y'all feeling about these? Y'all notice, of course, they leaned into the blue, what we are affectionately calling around here H-Town blue. This is not a surprise. Hey, can I, as a matter of fact, let me see if I can. Let's stop here for a second. Uh-oh. Is it gonna let me? Y'all see this? So here's Will Anderson Jr. rocking this. Y'all see this this bull? And it's kind of washed out here on this image, but y'all see the bull on the left shoulder, the chest right there on the left shoulder. I gotta tell y'all, this is my favorite part of what the Texans are doing with their new uniforms as of the last couple of years. Y'all will see right behind me the bull from what they did a couple of years ago when they basically just remix the bull and throw that blue and red in there, that H-Town blue and red in there. Favorite part of all of it for me. Jazzing up that bull as opposed to the one that's on Will's headband versus this one. This is the old one. This is the new one. Give me this. Anything with that on it is gonna do it for me. That's just me. That's just me. I know a lot of people like the H. A lot of people just like the colors alone. I know Ron was talking about listening to the drive. I know Ron Hughley was talking about the horns on the battle red, the new battle red that they've had over the last couple of years. He likes those horns. Those probably do it for me the least. If I'm being honest, I don't really have I don't have nothing against the horn, but that H and that bull, that's it for me. That bull right there, that Daniil Hunter is rocking. Those are the ones for me. And then y'all will see too. Oh man, that pendant. I gotta get that. I gotta get that pendant. See, but y'all see the H, right? See the H there. There's another part of it I really like. But y'all see as well, and matter of fact, I can pull this back up. Another key part of this, a key theme of it is the tile. This you'll notice is a theme both. Try to see if I can pause it right on the tile, but this is both a theme with the new uniforms and with the new 95.7 The Fan logo. If you just kind of look at the font, y'all can see that up top. This H-Town, this Houston. They're going for the Be Someone font and what some of those old brick street signs back in the day used to look like. So this to me is a conscientious effort, if you will, on purpose, and I'm a fan of it as well. Just as somebody that is a fan of Houston history, and I think it's a cool look as well. So I'm high on it. Let me go through some of these comments since I was kind of messing around with the production side of this thing. Y'all bear with me. But I'm curious of what y'all thought about all of it. Uh Damn, y'all flooded the comments while I was out of there. Flooded them. Noah says that the blue numbers had red outlines, it would be Chef's Kiss. Yeah, it looks like. I mean, they did the red though, right? Like they threw the red in there, and it looks like they were really trying to lean into the blue. I can see what you're saying though. I can see what you're saying if they had that, right? Let's pull it back up. I can see that. Like if this red is on the numbers, that would be slick. They've done that though, right? With they got red numbers with the blue trim around it. I think the idea is the same though. If you could get that red around the blue, the way you got the blue around the red, that would have made sense. I agree. Absent of that though, I think it's cool. Senior Buble says he appreciates that they weren't leaked. There were some leaks out there. I didn't really pay attention to them as much. So I don't know if the real ones got, I know some fake ones got leaked. I don't know if the real ones got leaked or not, but this was my first time seeing it. Gotta admit, I was not surprised once I saw it, given what we just did with our rebrand at the station. It all seems like everybody was thinking along the same lines. And I would not be shocked if there was a little bit of a collaboration with that. And when I say collaboration, I'm not saying that the team did what the radio station was doing as much as maybe the radio station did what the team was thinking, if I had to guess. Texas Smoke says they look fresh to him. I agree. I like this from Brandon. Notice when the Texans base a jersey on their city and Nashville makes a rivalry based on their city, the Titans uniform isn't anything like what the Titans claim they stole. Uh yeah, look, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I don't get into the back and forth with the Titans as much as I did. Like I've said this before, I say it again. You want to know how I feel about the Titans and their uniforms? Just go check what I wrote about it back in 2023. I did it for me. This has been addressed, and I just don't feel like giving it much energy or breathing much life into the Titans and them jocking somebody's style, right? Like we know what that is. We know what that is, right? That is a team, an organization that is, I think, for a while now, searching for an identity, searching for its own identity. It's difficult, I think, for them to, in some ways, like make historical connections and references because they don't have them, because their history is not theirs, it's actually ours. And so that ends up manifesting itself in their uniforms and in their whole like persona. It's just kind of their thing. Y'all forgive me while I try to got a slight emergency here. If y'all just bear with me for a second. I got medication I was supposed to take, and I called myself taking it, but there might be like a malfunction with it. And so in the middle of this live, I'm trying to figure out because I can feel that the medication has not done what it's supposed to do. And I don't want to end this live early, but I also want to be available to y'all the next time I want to do a live. And so I'm trying to figure this out in real time. If y'all will bear with me. Yeah, this thing ain't working. Oh no, maybe it is. This is dumb. Y'all forgive me for this. This is slightly a matter of life and death. Not that I'm a fall out here on the live, but it is important that I handle business. Y'all want me to be right, right? Y'all want your boy to be good. Um, these skills, these skills that I run into you. Who did I run into? Let me know, these. Did I run into you in the press box? I ran into somebody that is a loyal day one, both in this chat and in the 95.7, the fan chat. And so these skills, if that was you, forgive me for not remembering exactly. I know it was one of my day ones. Man, shout out to you. Good to meet you. And I'm right here with you on the point about CJ. He looks so CJ, if unbothered was a person, it would be CJ. It would be CJ. Rodney Bright says that he hopes they wear them more than once. All the information that I've got is that they're going to wear them against the Colts. Y'all bear with me because I didn't see. Did y'all see anything about them wearing them again? Aside from that Colts game, because they're rivalry uniforms. Y'all got to remember that too. This is not just one of their new alternates. They're specifically for rivalries. And the league has some really weird rules about when and how often you can wear certain uniforms and how many uniforms you can have under what circumstances and all of that. So so I don't even know if how many times they can wear them, honestly. I know Doug Vosick was on with the drive earlier today. I didn't get to catch that live. I'm gonna go back and look at it, but I'm not even sure exactly what the rules are on it. I did like, who was it? One of my colleagues said that this is the best uniforms that they've had. Feel free to disagree with that. I'm gonna go ahead and co-sign that opinion. I'm gonna co-sign that. This is the cleanest uniform that the Texans have had. This one right here, the one that they just released today. So I know it's their rivalry uniforms. I know they're gonna wear them on a limited basis. But for my money, like if I had to choose, this would be their new uniform. And their like these would be their whites, and then they would wear either a blue or a red or something like that. Or they could do it, they could do this. Honestly, they could do this as their whites, and then they could do this jersey that's behind me, the one that y'all already know about. They could do that one as their colored jerseys. And I would be happy. That's how high I am on these uniforms. Yeah, the bull on the ice white hat right there with you. Right there with you. Noah mentions that the tile effect is a nice touch. I think that's probably like the colors and the tile effect is the main nod to Houston culture, the salute to Houston culture and history. And the blue, I hate repeating this, but I feel like it just bears repeating. The blue is not just trying to be the Oilers or trying to hold on to Oilers history. Even the blue in the Oilers get up is a nod to Houston history, the signs from back in the day, going back to this real quick, the street signs from back in the day, the curb signs from back in the day, the tile from back in the day, the be someone sign of more recent history, the police cars from back in the day, right? Like that's what that's all about. Not just trying to be the Oilers. There's a deeper meaning and a deeper history associated with the colors than just the football team used to wear them, which is why other franchises in the city have taken to them. Aside from the fact that it's just dope colors, real cool colors, but the city itself, not the Titans / Oilers or however you want to look at that, the city of Houston has a connection to that shade of blue. Shout out to you, D Skills. Hopefully, I see you some more, man. If you're gonna be out there in the press box, hopefully, I get to run into you again. Make sure you come up and speak, man. I always love to see people in person. Um, and yeah, and I believe you're right. They can only wear it once. Very specific rules with that. So yeah, look like everybody for the most part likes him. Y'all let me know if there is anything that, man, I damn near want to change my show colors, and this would be a headache. So I'm probably not gonna do it. I probably shouldn't even say it and talk about it. But I kind of want to change my show colors to the blue. You know, the the company that my girl hired to do the, and what are we doing here? Let's go ahead and remove. We going for this look. Um, my girl had this developed for me, and I like the colors. I know everybody else has been supportive of the new, and I say new. It's not that new of a look for the B block anymore, but I kind of want to bite these colors, man. I kind of do. Part of me is thinking about it, but we're gonna rock with what we got for now. But I'm into it. I'm here for it. Um, yeah. Shout out to the Texans and the rivalry uniforms. Dana Brown. Let's move on to this. We've been at this thing for 47 minutes. I don't want to stay too long, and I want to get to everything that's here on the list. Hopefully, I do. But Dana Brown being out, this is pretty simple. The Astros announced Monday morning that they mutually agreed to part ways with Dana Brown, their general manager. This only came as a surprise because of the timing. There's only about a month and some change left in the season. And like the bulk of everything that a GM does has already been done. And this is a GM that nobody, and I mean nobody, was expecting them to bring back after this year. And so the thought is, why do this now? Why not just let the contract play out and let him go in and be out? Um, Simple. There's no more work for him to do, and they weren't bringing him back, and there was no use in wasting his time or anybody else's and being around and still being around if he wanted to get a head start on whatever is next for him in his career. And so that's that. But I do think that what was reported in USA Today before Dana Brown, excuse me, before Jim Crane spoke to the media out in New York today, I think the part that Bob Nightingale wrote in USA Today was true. He lays out how bad it was for the Astros over the last week plus against first the Mariners, the Angels, and then the A's, where they lost all three of those series at home. I think that enough was just enough. And Jim Crane, whether he wanted to admit it or not, and I saw his media availability, he said that this didn't have nothing to do with it. Losing them games against the Mariners, Angels, and A's didn't have nothing to do with it, according to Jim Crane. Far be it from me to call him a liar. I'm not calling him a liar, but I don't believe him. I think that this is a advanced adult version of a hissy fit, of a bit of a temper tantrum. And I can't say I really blame him for him to look up and say enough is enough. We can't stand by and watch this. Whoever is responsible for the team that blows a 6-0 lead for a team that can't win none of the series against these pitiful AL West teams. And here they are, after having seized control of that division, despite barely being a 500 team. Here they are now, a half game out of the division. And despite the fact that they have a good chance of winning the division, they don't look like a team. They are not consistent enough of a team, and at times don't even look like a talented enough team to really believe in. I talked about that over the weekend, but this is just not a team that you can believe in. Not a team that you can believe in at all. And so who's responsible for that? You know, whether Dana Brown is the scapegoat or whether he's actually responsible kind of is beside the point, because the guy making the decision had enough. Now, how much do you want to blame the guy that's making the decisions? And that being Jim Crane. And this is the overall takeaway is that Jim Crane is going to have to decide what direction to go in this fork in the road. They are at a crossroads. They have an identity crisis. What are they going to be? Do they believe that they can just keep doing this thing where they try to patchwork a team together? Or do they think, or are they realizing, and at what point do they realize that this is a squad that they're going to have to tear down and build back up? Because that's what it is. And I don't think that there is a general manager that is going to be successful in that role until they start looking themselves in the mirror and being honest about how they are run and what it is that they're doing and how they're trying to accomplish it. It's a serious question of, and we've been asking this at the station all day. How attractive of a job is this really? Been asking it all week now, or since yesterday. How attractive of a job is the Astros general manager job really at this point? They fired a dude that won a World Series or did not renew his contract in James Click. They brought in a guy and never really fully gave him the reins, it seemed like. They allowed him to make some decisions and make some moves and draft and all of that. But you got Jim Crane out there vetoing trades this year. They haven't been able to pay none of the guys that they've had an opportunity to retain since Dana Brown has been there. And credit to Jim Crane on that, because I think they've been validated on all of that. Framber Valdez wouldn't want to pay the money for Framber Valdez that he's making right now. Kyle Tucker, probably the best thing, not probably, I think the best thing that Dana Brown did while he was here was getting Cam Smith and Isak Paredes for Kyle Tucker. And Hayden Wesneski, on top of that, is somebody that's going to contribute for them or is contributing for them right now. But how much autonomy, if any, does a general manager have here in Houston with the Astros? How important is it that he truly gets that buy-in, not just from Jim Crane, but from Jim Crane and the brain trust, D Skills? No one wants to work for Bagwell Crane, says D Skills. You don't just have to have the ear of Jim Crane. It looks like since Jeff Bagwell, and shout out to Bagwell as a Astros legend, but it looks like you're going to need his confidence as well, because that's basically the same thing. And who wants to sign up for that? Who wants to be the guy that has to answer to Jim Crane and Jeff Bagwell? Especially if either or both guys are in denial about what it takes or what it's going to take for this team to get back to where it was. I got a lot of respect for both guys, Jim Crane and Jeff Bagwell. Bagwell for the obvious, right? One of the greatest players in franchise history. And then Crane, the greatest owner in Houston pro sports history. At least you could make the case. I would make that case. But they are at a fork in the road. They are at a crossroads. And what direction they go in is going to be major. Not just, for the obvious of the like what it means for the team, but like who they end up hiring. Which brings me into what's next for Joe Espada. I think Joe Espada has a much better case for sticking around than Dana Brown did, but I don't think it's good enough. Don't think it's going to be good enough, and I feel really bad because Joe Espada went through something in his personal life in the last few days that makes all of this feel kind of small and unimportant. When you talk about whatever it is that he's going through or went through. But the timing of this is hard to avoid the feeling that he is next. He is very much next. And there was some conflict in reporting here of, the USA Today article said that Espada was essentially out too, and Jim Crane came out today and said, "No, that decision has not been made yet. We'll make it at the end of the year." But come on, looks like writing is on the wall there as well. So I don't expect Espada to be back next year, even if I don't think that everything that's wrong with the Astros is those Espadas. I feel like the state of the Astros, you got to lay at the right now. Got to lay it at his feet. And so it's going to be up to him to figure out what this thing is going to look like. The last thing I was going to mention here before we get out is the college eligibility rules, because I feel like I'm real curious of what y'all think about this whole Daquan Wright situation. It's one of those crazy ones, man, where a guy leaves college, played at Ole Miss, played for Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, goes to the NFL, doesn't look like he's going to be able to stick with the NFL. He's in camp with the Cleveland Browns, decides to ask for his release, or they release him or whatever, and he goes back into the transfer portal. He's going to go to LSU and play now after having spent camp with the Browns. We've never seen or heard anything like this. And now to the point where the Big Ten has had to officially ban NFL players from returning to their conference. Okay, and so obviously this is happening in the SEC with LSU, but I'm just trying to understand. Maybe somebody in the chat can help me understand. How is it that the conferences or the NCAA or some governing body, and these skills are saying that the SEC did it too, how is it that they did not already have this though? Like, the fact that this was even possible makes me okay with it. As ridiculous as it is, as like this is a bridge too far. I think we can all admit. Definitely offends all of our sensibilities and how we understand things to work, even though those of us who have always been in support of college players getting paid. This is wild. And so the idea that they did not account for this to begin with is beyond me. Beyond me. And that being the case, I got a tough time having a problem with it. There are supposed to be rules. If this is so offensive, there are supposed to be rules that make it to where this can't happen. And look, I get it. These skills are saying that the courts have stripped the NCAA of a lot of oversight and that it's all going to crumble. I'm actually good with it crumbling. And I'm good with the NCAA not having oversight. The conferences still get to make up rules all willy-nilly and stuff. And this would have been one that they could have done, clearly, and should have done. Unless they're cool with this. Which I suspect part of me wonders if they are. Because they just want the best players that they can get, right? Lane Kiffin might be saying the quiet thing out loud, which would be a very Lane Kiffin thing to do. But it is wild to me that it was ever allowed for something like this to happen. Ever. So you reap what you sow. And to me, this is just an indictment on the way that the system always was before, and affirmation that the college game was always just a masking agent for a minor league system, for a pipeline system. This is what it's always been. And now the gloves are off, the mask is off, the charade is done. This ain't about no higher education or higher purpose or whatever the morality stuff that ties people, that tethers us to college athletics. All of it was always a sham to begin with. And I think that what we're seeing here with this Daquan Wright situation is exposing that, whether you like it, love it, or hate it. And I think it's absurd. I think it's crazy, just to be clear. But this is the players and to some degree, of course, even the institutions themselves flipping the entire concept on its head. Everything that we grew up with, being told and understanding about college athletics, flipping it on its head entirely is what's happening here. So curious what y'all think of it. I think it's wild, but I also think it's hilarious. I'm not super offended by it because, again, it was all a sham to begin with. That's the B block today, man. Rock with y'all for an hour. Want to try to do this as much as possible. I can tell y'all for a fact that I will be back tomorrow with my guy John Hickman from Locked On Texans. We're going to talk about a lot of the things that we went over today, but I'll get his insight on it as well. The Kayshon Boutte trade. And John is an interesting cat because he does Locked On Texans. He is a native Houstonian. He's a Patriot fan. I want to know what he thinks about the Texans and the Patriots doing this deal. Kayshon Boutte. I want to know what he's thinking about this last game. This final roster cut. But y'all do that tomorrow around 9:30. So y'all tap in 9:30 a.m. That is. So be back right here on the B block, 9:30 a.m. Don't miss it. B Scott, John Hickman with Locked On Texans gonna be in with me. I appreciate every single one of y'all for being here. Make sure that you're subscribed to the B Block with B Scott on YouTube if you have not done that already. Catch us wherever it is that you get your podcast. And I'll catch y'all next time.